I don't know why I do this to myself, but welcome back for the third instalment in my lesbian read series, in which I, a lesbian, read straight books and judge them through a very queer lens. As a lesbian woman, my experience of love, my experience of romance is very different than that of a straight person. I'm not saying better, I'm just saying very different. We've lived very different lives, okay? And that means that I read straight romance very, very differently than your average straight person. I read straight romance and a part of me inside dies. I'm not completely horrible though. I have read straight books in this series I've actually not hated, that I've actually enjoyed. I know, crazy, right? I've also read straight books in this series that have been so horrifically awful that I cannot believe they ever got published. So that leads us on nicely to our 4 books that we're going to be talking about in this week's video. Slight disclaimer, I have actually read all these books already, so I know what's in store, but you guys don't yet. I did film an introduction months ago when I started filming for this video, and then at some point I've deleted the footage because really good YouTuber over here. So I'm just filming this in retrospect, but it doesn't really matter. I'm going to tell you what 4 books I've got. So today, together in this video, we are going to read Flawless by Elsie Silver. We are going to read Twisted Love by Anna Huang. Happy Place by Emily Henry. I've read an Emily Henry book in every single episode I've done in this series, and nothing gets people angry like my opinions on Emily Henry. I have said time and time again, I don't think her stories, like the books, are inherently problematic. I just don't vibe with her writing style, but that makes people very angry. Did I feel the same about this book? You'll find out. And finally, we have The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. I was purely drawn to this book because of the colours, but I actually hate this style of book. Like, why is this such a thing? Like, sure, they did their job because they caught my eye, but objectively, I hate covers like this. I don't know what it is. I genuinely think I could design better than this, especially because I spent the last few weeks learning how to use Canva with Skillshare. Quick question for you. Have you ever had that one thing that you really want to get better at, but you don't know where to begin? Like, how do you even start in learning this one weird, maybe obscure skill? Well, the answer for you is Skillshare. For me personally, that one weird, maybe obscure skill is wanting to learn how to use Canva to the best of its ability. I've used Canva for many, many years now to make my thumbnails for these videos, and that is about where my skill and knowledge of the program ends. But I know there's so much more that I could be unlocking. There's so much more that I could be doing. Now is the time for me to learn though, as I have been dedicating my time to trying to grow this channel, trying to grow my Instagram and my TikTok. I want to have a cohesive brand throughout all of my social media. And Canva is going to help me do that, and so is Skillshare. If you're not familiar, Skillshare is an amazing online learning community with thousands of classes led by industry experts. I'm talking you can learn everything from film and animation to freelancing, design, entrepreneurship, even productivity hacks. Like, there is literally something on Skillshare for everyone. But right now, the class I'm taking is Maggie Starr's social media content creation in Canva from beginner to advanced. She's been teaching me how to use Canva to the best of its ability, how to create beautiful graphics that will turn my online presence into something a bit more noticeable. Branding is such an important part of being a social media content creator. Having a cohesive brand across all my platforms is something that I've really been working on recently, and Maggie's been helping me figure all of that out. Through this class, I've made a new end card for my videos, so maybe you're going to have to stick around to the very end of this video to see what I've made. I'm very proud of myself. It's probably not the best design in the world, but I'm new to this. I'm learning. I don't have like a natural design eye. But I've learned so much and I'm working on it. And Canva isn't just about learning for work or for projects, it's about making creativity a regular part of your daily life. You know how we all take the time to care for our mental health or our physical health, or at least I hope we're all taking time to care for our mental health and physical health. You've also got to take care of your creative health as well. That's what I love about Skillshare. It's like a gym for your creativity, a personal trainer for your creative brain. And that might be the most Georgia sentence I have ever uttered. So, here's the deal for you. The first 500 people to sign up to Skillshare using the link in the description box down below will get a free 1-month trial. This is your sign to finally get started on that skill that you've been putting off forever. Like, what is something you've always been like, oh, I really want to learn that, but I don't know how, where do I begin? begin on Skillshare. It's free for a month. Like, you might as well. And when you all see me with these beautiful cohesive graphics across all of my social media in the next couple of months, we can all say, thank you, Skillshare. And with that, let's get back to talking about some books, starting with Flawless by Elsie Silver. You know what? Looking at this now as well, I could design a better cover than this. This is not a good cover. Anyway, let's hear my thoughts on it. Okay, guys, I have thoughts, I have feelings, and let me tell you, none of them are particularly good. This is Flawless by Elsie Silver. I finished reading it like last week, and I needed to like just put it down for a while before I felt I could talk about this and not be unnecessarily cruel about it. I've sat with it, okay? This is me being nice. I'm about to be really nice. Let's talk positives first. Positive, I read this book really, really fast. The writing is really simple. Is that a good thing? That might be a good thing. If you like simple, easy writing, that's this book. It's easy. Are you ready for me to rip into this book? Because this was genuinely terrible. Like, genuinely just not a good book. Let's start with the premise of this book, which is just like off the bat, incredibly stupid and ridiculous. I don't know if it was meant to be stupid and ridiculous. I feel like it was, but that wasn't made like abundantly clear. So I was kind of like, is this meant to be as ridiculous as it is? So our main character here is a man called Rhett. He is a cowboy in that he like rides rodeo bulls. That's his entire job. It's like his entire reason for living. And our other main character is Summer. And Summer is the daughter of Rhett's like PR agent. And in a really, really professional turn of events, Rhett's PR agent, aka Summer's dad, turns around after like a PR nightmare and is like, hey, daughter, I want you to go and live with this cowboy who I know you had a crush on as a teenager, but it's so fine. It's so fine. I want you to go live with him for 3 months. Just like make sure that he's not like shagging people, please. And she's like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I'm definitely not going to shag him. And that is basically the premise. He had this PR nightmare because he'd done a campaign. I think it was like similar to like the Got Milk campaign. And then he was caught, Rhett was caught on camera admitting that he hates milk. And it just became this entire like PR nightmare. He was like being vilified. People were like really beginning to like turn against this cowboy who now hates milk. And yes, milk throughout this entire book is a recurring theme. There's so many references to milk. I didn't know milk could be such an important part of a book, but it can be. Summer as a character is pretty much personalityless. I'm like trying to rack my brains, trying to think of like any personality trait I can attribute to Summer, the main character in this book. And I am genuinely struggling. I think she was quite uptight. And like the cowboy had to like lower down her barriers. But then she also had to lower down his barriers because he was also uptight. And it like was this classic thing of Rhett. He doesn't know what to do with his feelings for this girl. So he's just like unnecessarily mean to her. Rhett's also got no discernible personality, to be honest. I'm trying to think of how to describe him. He's just cowboy, stereotypical cowboy, gruff and rough. And anytime he had any like dialogue in this book, it was like Rhett grunted, Rhett groaned, Rhett said gruffly. It's just like, why? Why can't he just say a sentence like a normal person? So those two are our romantic leads in this book, only there is zero chemistry between the two of them. Like, even the sexual chemistry, I didn't feel it. This is obviously a romance where they kind of like both hate each other. Summer's living in Rhett's house with him and his dad and his brother. And she's like, obviously, she fancies him, but also like he's being a dick to her. And then he like fancies her, but he doesn't know how to deal with that. So he's being a dick to her. So the first 200 pages is then basically like skirting around each other and like not liking each other. And then they have sex. And then that's it for the rest of the book. Like the rest of the book from page 200-ish onwards is just sex. Graphic, straight sex. I feel like my thoughts about this are kind of jumping all over the place because I just have so many things I want to say and bitch about, and I just don't know how to like streamline my thoughts into something cohesive. So I'm literally just going to read off my notes as I made them. So Summer talks about how masculine Rhett is constantly. Like, she talks about how he's such like a masculine man. He's so masculine. He's got these calloused hands and his long hair pulled back into a ponytail, which I didn't think was particularly masculine. Maybe it is. Is that like a masculine thing that straight women are attracted to, like long hair? I would have thought the opposite. Straight women, let me know. What else does she say? Oh, his beard. She talks about his beard all the time. There's one scene in which they're like doing stuff and he leaves like a beard rash on her chest, and I had no idea that was a thing, and that like physically repulsed me. I actually had to put the book down after that for a little bit and walk away, because I was like, beard rash, is that a thing? That's horrifying to me. Like a beard rash all over her chest, and she's like, yes, like he marked me with his beard. No, that's grim. That is shave. And in every sex scene, there's quite a lot of like forcing. It's like Rhett forced Summer down onto her knees, or like Rhett forced Summer to do this. It's like, why is there so much forcing in your sex scenes, Elsie Silver? Why does Rhett need to force force Summer to do anything? She apparently wants to be there. This is apparently a consensual sexual scene. And like, don't get me wrong, I understand people have kinks. Some people like to role play forcing and things like that in their, what they do in the bedroom, in their sex. That's fine. I get that. I understand that. I'm not a kink shamer. You do you. Love that for you. But I just think when it's being done in a book, especially a book like this, which is going to be read by so many teenage girls, this shouldn't be being read by teenage girls, but it's such simple vocabulary, and it's the way it's marketed on TikTok, it is going to be read by like teenage girls who probably don't have all that much experience in that department yet. They're going to be reading that and thinking that's like normal. And I think when you're having sex scenes like that in a book, it needs to just be like a discussion, even like 2 sentences between characters being like, oh yeah, do you want to like role play this? And the other character's like, yes, let's role play that, because that's not normal sexual behaviour, but let's role play. That's fine. That's all it takes. And that's something I find like in lesbian like fiction. I read a lot of lesbian books, by the way. I find the communication is written a lot better in sapphic books than it is in straight books. In straight books, it's just like taken for granted that this is what's going to happen. Whereas in sapphic books, there's always like just a little bit of explanation, just like a little bit more. And I really, really appreciate that. And reading books like Flawless, that it really gives me like the ick. Like, I just think there's so many teenage girls reading this. They shouldn't be. They really shouldn't be. But there will be. And they're going to see that and perceive it as normal. Whilst teenage boys are out there watching Pornhub and all that, teenage girls, I mean, they might be watching porn also, teenage girls they're going to be reading smut. And it needs to be more, more thought about, more gentle. In contrast to that, there's also like a whole side story in this book where Summer was taken advantage of by her doctor when she was a teenager. She had, I think, like heart surgery, and a heart doctor basically like groomed her, and they ended up in a relationship for many, many years, and this ex is like still sticking around, and the ex can see her moving on with Rhett, and he's like hanging around like a bad smell, and it turns out that the ex, this might be a slight spoiler, I don't care, I'm not recommending you read this, the ex is now married to Summer's sister. It's a whole messy thing. That could be like something really interesting to like dive into further, but it's not. It's just kind of like a side plot to like advance how lovely and wonderful Rhett is in comparison to him, but it's like not really expanded on at all. And I feel like that was such a missed opportunity, because that would have been really interesting. What happens in this book is not interesting, but that storyline could have been actually something really important to talk about. There's one sentence in this book which literally I read it and I gasped, because I was like, lesbians would never ever write this. Rhett says to Summer after sex, "Woman, I'm wiping you with a hot washcloth after sex. That's how much I love you." What do you mean you're wiping her with a washcloth and that means you love her an insane amount? That is the bare minimum. That is the absolute bare minimum that you can do for someone. Like, what do you mean? I'm wiping you with a hot washcloth after sex. That's how much I love you. No. Standards. Women. Higher. Please. Jesus Christ. I feel like this book was a very classic case of the author just like telling you outright how much chemistry these characters have together and how perfect they are for each other, instead of actually like showing it in their writing. It just felt like really lazy writing. And I don't think like a rom-com, like a romancy book like this, I don't think it needs to be incredible writing all the time. Like, these books are escapism. They're meant to be silly and funny and like whatever. Like, it's fine. But it is lazy. It's lazy writing. And there's a whole series of this. I mean, good on Elsie Silver. She is profited. She is doing well because people go mad about this. As you can see, I have tabbed this book to within an inch of its life. Is that like ASMR? I have tabbed it to within an inch of its life. I actually didn't write any notes on any of these tabs, so I have no idea what I've actually tabbed. So I'm just going to open to a few random pages and I'm going to read you what I see, because I have no doubt if I tabbed it, it's something ridiculous. Oh my god, I can't believe I forgot to speak about this. So every chapter starts with like a little text exchange between like Summer and her dad, or between Rhett and Summer's dad, his PR agent, or like between Rhett and Summer. There's just like a little text exchange at the beginning of every chapter, which is like, it sped up the reading process for sure, because it's just like a wasted page. The beginning of this chapter, chapter 3, is Summer heading out there now, referring to going to the ranch now. Dad, be safe, don't let that arsehole in your pants. Summer, I'm really more of a skirt gal. Like, okay, listen, maybe this is a me thing, but like, joking with my dad about sex is probably the most uncomfortable thing I could possibly ever imagine. And Summer and her dad talk about sex constantly. It's fucking weird. It is weird. It is wrong. I felt so uncomfortable. There's even jokes between like Rhett and the dad, I think he's called like Kip, about having sex with Summer, and no. I got like the physical cringe ick at some points, because I was like, this is so deeply uncomfortable. Like, he's meant to be like the cool dad, but no, it's why are they like sexualizing the relationship between Summer and her dad? Please, no. There's also a running joke, a running theme thing throughout the entirety of this book, where Rhett overheard Kip call Summer his princess once, like towards the beginning of the book, the first time they met, and then for the rest of the book, Rhett calls Summer princess to like take the piss out of her, only it then becomes like, when they're having sex, he's like calling her princess, and she's like, that reminds me of my dad, and he carries on doing it, but then she like starts to kind of like it, and he just keeps calling her princess because her dad called her princess and he liked it. And I feel like I can't properly round up my thoughts on that, but I know I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Oh my god, something I haven't spoken about yet is how the entire premise of this, how like Summer being sent to babysit Rhett is so like deeply misogynistic, because he's of course just a man. He's just a man who can't control himself. He can't look after himself, so he's got to have a woman who's a good like 7-8 years younger than him, by the way, come and stay in his house to keep him under control, because he cannot learn how to control himself. He can't be expected to behave for himself. Like, no, of course not. He's got to have a 25-year-old woman come and sleep in his spare room and babysit him, because he doesn't know how to do it. Rhett, one of the storylines is that he is 32 years old. He's getting too old to be a rodeo person, a cowboy anymore. He's like, everything hurts, but he like refuses to go to the hospital, refuses to look after himself, like won't even like take drugs for his muscles. So Summer is the one who has to like force him to take drugs and take care of himself. And like, it's just like, why is that a woman's job? Why is that always a woman's job? Like, why can't we just expect a man to do those things? Like, are men really that inept? Because I don't think so. Is it just laziness? Is it weaponized incompetence? Just forcing the women around you to look after you? And this book, the entire premise of this book, falls into that trap of like, man can't look after himself, woman must do it. She must. Oh, this tab, page 141. Pretty sure the throbbing between my legs means I'm a buckle bunny now. So there are these characters called buckle bunnies in this book, which are basically like women who hang around at rodeos because they find cowboys attractive. That is it. They want to sleep with cowboys. I don't care who you want to sleep with. If you want to sleep with cowboys, you hang around at the rodeo and you do that. Like, you live your best life. You try and make it happen. As long as everything is consensual between everyone, you do that. You be a buckle bunny. The way the buckle bunnies are spoken about in this book is just so deeply misogynistic. Like, they're made out to be these like daft bimbo idiots who like don't have any worth apart from like if a cowboy fancies them or not. And it made me so angry. Like, they're spoken down on constantly. They're made to be the butt of the joke constantly. I really, really didn't like it. Like, there is nothing wrong with having a type. And, like, if they want to hang around at the rodeos and talk to the cowboys, as long as it's all consensual, I just don't really care. That really bothered me. Prime example, page 221. During past seasons, if I felt like celebrating after a good ride, I'd roll out of the ring and snag myself a bunny. Snag myself a bunny. That's a woman you're talking about, Rhett. I just really hated that. He's talking to a guy called Theo who's got like a crush on one of the buckle bunnies, but he like is refusing to do anything because she's a buckle bunny and she's been with other men, and clearly that makes her worth less than other women, so he can't be with her. He doesn't want to be with her because she is a buckle bunny. What does that even mean? Oh my god, okay, in reference to the earlier talking about beard burn. Summer says, "It's the beard, it feels so good. I've never had that before. The girl who is usually so put together and well-spoken is a puddle, all because of my beard. And I get off on it. I get off on being the first man to give her beard burn. Her neck isn't safe tonight, neither are her inner thighs." Sorry. Please, straight women, beard burn. Talk to me about it. But nicely, be gentle. Is that a thing? Does it feel good? Really? It sounds tickly at best and painful at worst, to be honest. You know what? I think I'm going to end that there because I could keep going about just how awful this book is, but it's so like comically bad. I feel like it might become like a meme in my life. I just feel like I'm going to keep referencing it all the time. It was so bad. It was so bad. Yeah. If you want to read it, it's comedic value is good. Slightly horrifying though. Would not recommend to under 18s. Maybe not under 21s, to be honest. Like, it is sexually graphic in quite a traumatizing way for me, a lesbian. Have I mentioned that I'm gay, you guys? Have I ever mentioned that? I don't know. Anyway, I have currently just started Happy Place by Emily Henry, so the next clip you see will be me talking about Happy Place. Hopefully it's better. Like I said earlier in the video, I don't hate Emily Henry books, I just don't love them. So I'm intrigued to see what I think. Also, don't you just love how dead this plant is behind me? It is so unbelievably dead. But I can't bring myself to throw it away because I bought it when me and my wife, at the time my girlfriend, moved into our first house. And I just can't get rid of it. It's so dead. Okay, let's talk about Happy Place. I started this book about 9 weeks ago and I finished it 2 days ago because I just don't vibe with Emily Henry's writing. I don't think these books are inherently problematic in a way that a lot of the other books I speak about in these videos are. Like, I don't think Emily Henry is necessarily a terrible writer. I just don't vibe with her writing. I don't like it. I found this book so boring, with probably one of the most frustrating male characters I've come across in a really long time. At least like in all the other romance books I've been reading for this series. The authors kind of like lean into the men being like problematic and a bit controlling. Like, it's kind of the vibe. In this, Win, the male protagonist, I think is meant to be very like hot and romantic and just this like wonderful icon of a guy, and he just sucks. Also, he's called Wyn, W-Y-N, but you find out like halfway through this book that his actual name is Wyndham. Wyndham. Somebody needs to stop these romance authors and their terrible, terrible choices of names. Wyndham, really? So yes, we have Wyndham, Wyn, just terrible, and Harriet. They are our romantic couple of this book, and they have been together for a very long time. They've been together for 8 years since college, and even then they had this like ongoing flirtationship for like 2 years because they didn't want to get together because they were worried about ruining the vibes in their friendship group. So yeah, they take a while to get together, they finally get together, and they're like the perfect couple in every way. And all of their friends say, like, when they get together, like, you can't ever break up, by the way. Like, don't ever break up because you're going to ruin our friendship group if you break up. The friends in this book, who are also a big part of it, suck. Like, these are a really terrible group of friends. Like, all of them are just awful people. Every year, this whole friendship group goes on a trip to Sabrina, so one of the girls in the group's sort of family home, and it's like their happy place, hence the title of the book, Happy Place. And this year, everything's a little bit awkward because Wyn and Harriet have broken up, but nobody knows they've broken up because they decided just to like not tell anyone. They broke up and didn't tell any of their best friends that they had broken up at all. This entire friendship group and the couple in question just have a major problem with not so much miscommunication, but just lack of communication. And I know there's got to be like something in these books that makes it intriguing, gripping to the reader. Like there's got to be some sort of cross lines or some sort of storyline there that makes it intriguing to pick up. I get it. Miscommunication or just lack of communication is my least favourite book trope because it is so frustrating. Because why don't you just talk to each other? Just talk. And all of this would have been fixed. But no, Harriet and Wyn both decide to not tell any of their friends that they are broken up. For no reason. There's no reason given. They just don't. This is a dual timeline book. So we have the present day where they're currently at the happy place trying to pretend that they're still together for all of their friends. And then you have the past timeline where you basically see them get together and then go through their relationship and the eventual relationship breakdown. The relationship breakdown in this is just so ridiculous. They come to a hard time. Wyn's dad dies. Sorry, this is spoilers. I know. I don't recommend you read this book, so I don't really think it matters. Wyn's dad dies. He falls into a deep depression, as you probably would do when your parent suddenly passes away. And Harriet just like doesn't communicate with him at any point about like what he wants, what he needs. So instead they just like drift apart and don't make any effort whatsoever to try and fix it. They really keep going on about how like they never fight and it's so amazing that they never fight and they never have cross words, but it just means they're not talking about anything, so they've got all these problems and they're just holding it in. What these characters need is couples therapy, individual therapy and couples therapy badly. I mean, maybe they just couldn't communicate because Wyn has no discernible personality whatsoever. Like he is the world's most boring man. I could not tell you anything about this man's personality, and Harriet is just this wet blanket of a woman. She does have thoughts and feelings, but she doesn't at any point stand up for herself or stand up to what she believes. She is just people pleasing left, right and centre. And I truly believe that people pleasing is inherently a very selfish trait to have. Whereas a lot of the time the kindest thing you can do is just stand up for yourself or say no to the thing that you don't want to do. Like, why put yourself through misery to try and please other people? Because at the end of the day, you're miserable and they probably don't care all that much. Like, if you say no to something, they'll just ask somebody else. People do not care that much. I went off on a little tirade there. What was I saying? Oh yeah, Harriet is just a people pleaser. That is kind of her only personality trait, but also her friends. The entire friendship group suck. So the two main like best friends in this group are Cleo and Sabrina, and like Cleo, Sabrina and Harriet are like this threesome. They've been friends ever since like the first day of college. They are like BFFs, best friends forever, except none of them really like each other and it is just so bitchy. Like the side characters are all again very flat. There's not huge amounts of characterization there. This whole book is just full of like bitchy remarks and like them making like passive aggressive comments all the time without ever actually communicating what it is they really want to say. And if they had said what they really wanted to say or hadn't kept secrets for no apparent reason, we wouldn't have a book. We wouldn't have a book, and I think that would have been okay. They're just not good friends, and at the end of the book, like, Harriet goes out of her way, again, people pleaser, to, like, make her friends happy and, like, see things from their points of view, and, like, they all make up and kissy-kissy in the end, and it's fine. But, like, does she really need these people as friends? I really think sometimes you're best just, like, leave friends in the past. Just because you're a good friend with somebody at one point, it doesn't mean you need to, like, take them into your future, because maybe it was just, like, you need to appreciate that time for what it was. And you don't need to carry on being friends with people that you don't have anything in common with anymore at all. It was really frustrating, just the way that Harriet still to the end, her people-pleasing tendencies, just means that everything is all happy and good. And like, should I spoil what happens at the end with Harriet and Wyn? Probably not. They get back together, but even what happens with all that is so frustrating. One thing I will say, one positive, is that Cleo is a lesbian. There is a lesbian in this book, and like, she is spoken about a lot. She's not just like this side character that pops up a couple of times. Like, she is like a main side character. She is in a relationship with Kimmy, and everyone loves Cleo and Kimmy. Like, there's no homophobia, which is nice, but also it feels homophobic because again, it's just so one-dimensional. Like, there's never any reference to the fact that Cleo and Kimmy might feel slightly different in this group of like all straight people who just talk about their straight people drama all the time. There's no reference to the fact that their lives, their experiences as a couple are probably a little bit different from that of Wynn's and Harriet's and Sabrina and Path's. Like, they're just sort of like slotted in perfectly. And speaking from real life personal experience, it's not always that easy being the only lesbian couple in a group of straight people, because inherently your experiences are very different, and Cleo sort of comes across this very like headstrong, very like proud lesbian. And I think in real life somebody like Cleo would be very much an activist, like somebody who is very outspoken about queer rights, but she just doesn't in this book at all. And yeah, you can just tell it's a lesbian couple sort of shoveled in for representation, which I think at baseline is a good thing. Like, I never sniff my nose at representation in straight books. I think it does do a really good thing to normalize lesbian relationships and gay relationships to your regular straight romance reader. But you can just tell that it was written by a straight woman. But what I will say is most of these criticisms aren't based in like straight bullshit. I just didn't really vibe with the book. Emily Henry's writing, I've read 3 of her books now, and I find them boring. I'm really sorry. I did tab this book. It hasn't got many tabs in it because, again, it was just boring. There's nothing huge to say. But let's go through some of the tabs and see what I have to say. Okay, yeah, my first tab. This really pissed me off, actually. Like, this pissed me off more than it probably should have done. But Wynn uses Harriet's name all the time. Like, the end of every sentence, whenever he's speaking to her, he's like, Harriet, Harriet, Harriet. And I don't know about you, but I find that so condescending. Like, I don't mind somebody, like, using my name once when they're, like, addressing me, or, like, rarely. When somebody, like, uses your name at the end of every single sentence, that is so condescending. And he does it all the time. So straight off the bat, I was like, oh, this guy is going to piss me off, because that's really annoying. And she finds it really romantic. Of course she does. It's a romance book. And she's just like, I love how you use my name all the time. And I'm like, no, it's weird. Why? Oh, there's one point here where they're already in the happy place and they go shopping, and Wynn buys a coffee table book. He just buys a coffee table book. And Harriet loses her mind because she is like, he's seeing somebody else. Like, why else would he buy a coffee table book? Like, A, where's the link? You just made such a big leap there. And B, ask him. Just be like, oh, are you seeing somebody else? Just like, I'd like to know, just to make this whole thing like less weird between us. I'd just like to know where you're at, because in case I do want to maybe kiss you, or I do still fancy you, which I'm making incredibly obvious, I can do that. Why would she not just ask him if he was seeing somebody? I don't understand. I've got something nice to say next. Can you believe it? I tabbed this because I actually thought this was a really nice sentence. I don't know. Now I know how he'd taste, how he'd touch me, how quickly he'd become the foremost need in my personal Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I love that. The foremost need in my personal Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I just really liked that sentence. I liked it. I think the rest of the tabs are things that I've already kind of covered. But basically my main takeaway from this book is Wynn and Harriet were together for 8 whole years. If you can't have the hard conversations that you need to have as a couple after 8 years, if you feel too awkward to bring up the things that you need to bring up after so many years, then are you really working as a couple? I personally think they should have broken up and stayed broken up, because if you can't talk to somebody after that long, what are you doing? Like, I can't think of any scenario that I wouldn't just, like, say my problem to my wife and we can fix it together. Like, if you've already got that gulf between you and you're not making any effort to try and fix that gulf and you're not talking to each other, what are you doing? Wynn breaks up with her in a phone call, in a 30-second long phone call, and then she spends the next 5 months pining and just wishing she could have him back. And also, she's a surgeon. She is like a bad bitch. Like, she's training to be a surgeon. He is unemployed, by the way. And he's just like at home crying, depressed because his dad died. Fine. Like, you do what you need to do. Be depressed. Like, work through it. But he just like blames her for a lot of it, and it's like, no, she works hard. She is trained to be a surgeon whilst you're at home doing nothing because you can't get a job. And that is where I'm going to leave it. I really did not like Wynn. Can you tell? I really did not like him. I didn't like this book. It wasn't offensive. It wasn't like awful. I just didn't like it. I've given Emily Henry like 3 chances now. No, thank you. Me and Emily Henry, our relationship of 3 books, I think we can now call it quits. Sorry, I tried. I gave it a good go. It's not for me. I'm currently also about halfway through reading Twisted Love by Anna Huang. Yeah. Yeah, I have many thoughts about that. That is going to be a very interesting part of the video, which you're going to see in about 2 seconds' time. So have fun with that. Okay, I'm coming at you with reviews of the final 2 books of this video. I actually finished both of these over the weekend. One of them genuinely might be one of the most concerning books I've ever read in my entire life. The other one, I quite enjoyed. I liked it. But anyway, let's dive into one of the most concerning books I've ever read in my entire life. Like, what was this? What was this book? I would like to start by saying, before we even get into the horrific misogyny in this book, that this was just objectively badly written. Things just happen with little to no explanation. I was so confused for a vast majority of this book. It's very simplistic writing, which is usually very easy to follow. It's why romances like this tend to do so well in spaces like Book Talk. And no, that is not a read. It's a good portal to the world of books. Like, if a book's easy to read, it makes people read more books, and that's objectively a very good thing. This is very simplistically written, but it's too far. It's too far. It needs more explanation. Things would literally happen, and then I'd have to go back 2 or 3 pages to read it again to be like, oh, did I miss something? No, I'd never missed anything. It was just bad. The writing was bad. Considering this is such a high stakes book, our main male romantic lead here is literally a criminal or about to be a criminal, I'm not entirely sure. He's this big CEO, businessman, billionaire, super highly intelligent criminal. But there's no tension in these pages, sexual or otherwise. The stakes in this are very, very high. He is planning to kill someone, blow up his entire life. There's no tension. When the twist happened, when the big thing finally happened, it happened so randomly, so out of the blue. But also I just didn't really care. And that's only scratching the surface, because this book, I have so much to say about this. I could literally create a whole 2-hour-long video just unpicking why this book is so terrible. Maybe that is an idea for a future video, but this is dark romance, and I often find that dark romance books fall very quickly, very easily into the pits of misogyny. And why are the two so interlinked? I would love to know. Maybe that's another video idea. Maybe I can do a video about dark romance and the misogyny within the pages. But it must be possible for there to be a dark romance book in which the woman has power over her own life. There must be. This next point I'm going to read directly from my notes because I think I wrote this really well. This whole book reads like a kink that Anna Huang, the author, probably needs to explore in her own life and not present it as standard romance to unsuspecting, impressionable readers. Because whilst this is undoubtedly written for an adult audience, the writing in this is so basic, so simplistic, that of course is going to appeal to a younger, more teenage audience. And I don't think that teenagers should be reading this at all. This is it is an adult book. I'm not saying that Anna Huang is personally responsible for that. But this kind of romance, it needs to be more careful in the kind of romance love that it's portraying. The amount of teenagers, literal 14, 15-year-olds I've seen talking about this on TikTok, I am genuinely concerned. I was doing some TikTok research into this book, seeing what other people think about it. Spoiler alert, apparently my viewpoint here is I'm in the minority. I'm very much in the minority here. But yeah, just the amount of teenagers talking about this, and I'm you were literally a child and you were talking about this book. You were talking about Alex, who is the male romantic lead. He is the most romantic man in the entire world. Girl, no. Get outside. Experience real life, please. Not. This isn't romance. This is abuse. This book is literal abuse. So, the plot. Our main character here is Ava. She is a grown adult. She is in her, I think, final year at university or college, whatever they call it. And she lives independently with her friends. She is an adult, a fully functioning grown adult. Only she's not allowed to be because she has a ridiculously overbearing older brother called Josh, who trusts his younger sister so little to live her own life that he moved into the flat next to hers. He became her neighbour and oversees every aspect of her life. Like, she's not allowed to breathe without Josh knowing that she took that breath. Straight off the bat, she's got a concerning, very overbearing relationship with her older brother. This isn't presented in the book as a problematic thing or something that bothers Ava in any way. It's presented as a very, like, cute brotherly relationship. Like, he just loves her and he cares about her and he wants her to be okay. Like, sure, Ava did go through some trauma in her childhood and, like, he's a bit protective of her because of that. Like, and that's normal. I think any siblings would, like, be a bit protective, but, like, he controls her life, and that's normal in this book. That's not concerning. That's fine. So straight off the bat, Ava is presented as this little princess who just can't take care of herself. She needs a man, her older brother, in her life to look after her. So that is misogyny number one. Then Josh he's a doctor, the brother, Josh. He gets a job in Central America for a year, like volunteering and doctoring over there. And so instead of being like, oh yeah, this will be a nice chance for like Ava to spread her wings, look after herself, she's got a really good, strong group of friends. I mean, the group of friends kind of sucks in itself. I have a feeling the rest of the books in this series are about, like, each friend individually. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not going to read them. But, like, she has a group of friends. Like, she has a support network around her. But Josh isn't like, oh, yeah, her female friends are, like, going to, like, be there for her and look after her. No, he makes his best friend, a man called Alex Volkov, the aforementioned super intelligent CEO billionaire, move in to his apartment so he can keep an eye on Ava. And Alex is like Josh on crack. He is insanely overprotective. Like, he has also been through some trauma in his life. His entire family were like murdered in front of him. And instead of going to therapy, he has spent the last 20 years, 15 years, how many years, plotting revenge for their deaths. And it's made him into a very jealous, overbearing, powerful person who does not let Ava have any control over her own life whatsoever. From the day that Alex moves in, Ava is under his control. And that's really romantic. She thinks that's really cute and really romantic. Because Alex, of course, whilst he is this super intelligent CEO billionaire who is just like horrible to Ava, just like quite horrifically nasty for no reason whatsoever, he has a heart of gold. Of course, and like Ava says to him, his heart of gold is just encased in ice. The bad guys, they're always nice at heart. He's horrible. Like, he is literally horrible to her. Like, he is so rude. He, like, refuses to speak to her, refuses to look at her. And then one day he's suddenly like, oh yeah, maybe she is attractive. Like, through my understanding of this book, Alex hates everything about Ava. He hates her happy, sunshiny personality. Of course, this is a grumpy sunshine trope here. He hates that she's so sunshiny and happy all the time. He thinks it makes her weak. He hates the way she dresses. He hates he hates her friends. He doesn't like her job choice. Like, he just doesn't like anything about her. But she's hot. So that's something. There's one chapter in this where Ava, she's basically training to be a photographer. That is what she is doing at university. And she agrees to take part in a boudoir shoot for a fellow student. And, like, that is so fine because Ava has consented to it. The student asked her. She said, yes, of course. Boudoir shoots are basically like sexy photo shoots, but done in a very provocative but like tasteful way. Ava consented to this. She knew what she was doing. She was happy to do it. When Alex finds out, and bear in mind at this point, they're not even together. They're not together. Alex finds out where she is, storms in, basically tells her to get dressed, that she's disgusting, like what on earth is she doing, she needs to cover up, misogyny, and then threatens to murder the fellow student who is taking the photos of her and makes him delete all the photos. Sorry? Like, what do you mean? And Ava just does as he says. In fact, she finds it romantic that this man, who's like not even her boyfriend, like they're not together at all, just storms in and like threatens the life of one of her friends and tells her that she is basically a slut, a whore for doing this photo shoot. And she's like, oh, he's so romantic. Lord, give me strength. Give me strength. Alex uses his power and his money to basically control everyone around him, especially Ava. And at no point is it said like, oh yeah, this is like concerning. Like maybe he shouldn't have this much power over anyone's life. She's just like, oh, he's so hot. He's so hot. It doesn't matter that he's a domestic abuser. He's so hot. Once they do eventually get together, because of course they do, Alex tells Ava that if she ever sleeps with anyone else ever again, he will kill them. And he means it. And that includes when there's the third act breakup. I don't care about spoiling this one for you guys. Don't read it. When there's the third act breakup and she is like, they're split up for like a year, he still threatens to kill anyone else that she sleeps with. Like, they're not together. She literally goes to a different country, to London, to escape him. He follows her there and stalks her for an entire year to make sure that she doesn't sleep with anybody else, but also to win her back. He waits outside her house every single morning for an entire year. He waits outside her school every single afternoon for an entire year to try and win her back. And at no point is it written that this is creepy and wrong and he shouldn't be doing this. Like, no, it's just romantic. She sees it as romantic and eventually, of course, gets back together with him. I've written in my notes here, does Alex even love Ava, or does he just enjoy having a toy who will do whatever he asks? And I've written I can understand like why she fell for him. She was very impressionable. She'd been under the thumb of her brother for many, many years. She has daddy issues. Like, any man who is seemingly caring is going to win over Ava. Like, she needs to be in therapy. Don't get me wrong, but like, I understand why she fell for him. But like, why was Alex interested in Ava? Because he didn't like her at any point. He just thought she was hot. And then all of a sudden he's like in love with her. He never tries to improve himself at any point either. Like, he never goes to therapy. He never deals with any of his issues, even once like the issues are like over with. He just like throws money at everything and that fixes it all. And it's so romantic, you guys. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoy a grumpy sunshine, enemies to lovers trope. Like, I generally, in my gay books that I read, I do enjoy that. And I was trying to like analyse why I like that in a queer book and I don't like that in a straight book. But I think it's because in a queer book, if it's like sapphic enemies to lovers, there's no like inherent gender power dynamics there. Whereas in a straight relationship, the man is always going to have the power because it is a patriarchal society. We do sadly live in a patriarchy. So the man is always going to have power. So when it's like enemies to lovers, the man always has the power over the woman. And that bothers me. Again, I probably, if I was to think about that more, I could come up with more like succinct point around that. Maybe again, that's another video idea. I do want to get into like doing video essays about books. I might do a video essay about like different tropes and the differences between them in like straight romance versus gay romance. That's an idea. I feel like I'm jumping all over the place with my review, my rant about this book, because as I was writing my notes, I was literally just like angry typing on the train, just like getting every single thought I had out into my notes app. So yeah, we're moving on to my next point, which is about the romance. The romance in this isn't even well written. And by romance, I mean like sex scenes, basically. Listen, I'm a lesbian. I like slow burn. I live for anticipation. I love anticipation. In books, in life, like I live for it. The anticipation in this book, well, there wasn't any. There was no anticipation. They literally went from like disliking each other to sleeping with each other. Just so suddenly. There was no character development there. There was no development of their relationship. It was just like, oh, okay, now they're in love. Where's the anticipation? Give me what I need. Give me my tension. I feel like Anna Huang tried to write tension in this book, but Alex just caved way too quickly. Like, he went from, I can't sleep with my best friend's sister. Like, I will never ever do that. I'm the most loyal man in the entire world. To being like, yeah, all right then. In the space of like a page. That was it. That was the tension. I'm never going to do this to, sure, let me show you a really good time. And okay, one of my main thoughts around this book has to do with the sex scenes. Because Alex is made out to be this like super kinky, super like BDSM guy in the first like 50 pages of this. And I'm going into it thinking like, okay, this is going to be some 50 Shades of Grey shit. Like, we're in for something like really kinky in this book. And I could write an entire video on 50 Shades of Grey as it is anyway. But the kink in this was like, it wasn't kink. It was vanilla. What they end up having is vanilla sex, but like slightly rougher. There's no kink in this. Like, the way that they hype it up in the first like 50 pages and then just turns out to be nothing. You know the really kinky thing that Alex Volkov is into? He just doesn't like to look a woman in the face whilst they have sex. That's it. That is it. And there's no reason given as to why. I was like, okay, maybe this will like relate to his backstory. Oh no. He just doesn't like to look a woman in the face. Probably because he doesn't see them as human beings. Because that is generally the psychology behind that. He just wants to like fuck and leave. He's just a man that doesn't like to look at a woman as he has sex with her. And you know what? They're 10 a penny, I'm sure. I'm like, that is probably every other man that exists. That is not kink. It's just a lack of respect. Like, if you're going to commit to the bit, commit to the bit. Like, if you're going to make out that he's kinky, do it. But no, he just likes sex in position other than missionary. Like, the sex scenes in this are so funny. Also, some of the language of the sex scenes made me want to die. Like, can I even... No, I'm going to say this. So, I have, like, a list of words that I use in sex scenes and books to refer to vaginas, labias, potentially, that make me want to die a little bit. Like, why some of the language that is used can be so awful, but this book officially has gone up to my #1 ranking, because do you know what a vagina is referred to in the sex scenes in this book? Slippery folds. Slippery folds. And I'm just going to let that sit with you for a second. Please, God help me. There is so much more that I could say about this book. Like, genuinely, I could talk about this for another hour. I was not joking. I want to, like, summarise. Look how many tabs I've got in that. Like, again, I just tabbed this every time it pissed me off. Or, like, it made me laugh. Oh, my God. The ending. So, of course, they get back together at the end. Third act breakup, then they get back together. You know how he wins her back? He sings. Is there any reference in the book to the fact that this man can sing? At any point? No. About 30 pages before, like, the final bit where they get back together, he says that he doesn't like singing because it's, like, too soul-bearing. Like, people talk about their emotions too much through song, and he doesn't like it. And that is the only reference made to singing throughout this entire book, like 30 pages before the end. And then he wins her back by getting on stage and singing. And he's an incredible singer because, of course, he is, because he's Alex Volkov and he can do anything. And she, like, swoons and they get back together. But, like, it was so out of the blue. Like, what do you mean? If there was references to singing throughout this entire book, then I could probably, like, understand it being the big finale. But no, there was no reference to it other than, like, 30 pages beforehand, where I bet the editor of this book was like, listen, like, this ending doesn't really make sense. Let's just, like, shoehorn something in a couple of chapters earlier so it kind of makes a bit more sense. I'm so sure that's what happened. Let's go through some of these tabs and just see if I had anything interesting tabbed. Page 3, so literally opening of this book, Ava calls her brother, Josh, the overbearing brother, and they're chatting on the phone, and she realises that he's having sex, and he's just, like, chatting to her on the phone. Yep, he answered. He was having sex, and he answered the phone to his sister, so there's that. Page 10, Alex rejects Ava, apparently. I can't remember what the context is around that. But Ava says, I wasn't interested in Alex either, but no girl enjoys being dismissed so easily by a member of the opposite sex. Like, girl, nobody likes being dismissed, full stop. What's the opposite sex got to do with it? Rhubarb, do you have an opinion? She has thoughts. Page 14, Alex is being an asshole because a woman is showing interest in him and she's not hot enough for him to, like, consider her human. So he says, nothing turns me off more than desperation, which reeked stronger than her perfume. Which feels misogynistic. On this page, 83, they're talking about celebrity crushes, and Ava says that her celebrity crush is Ian Somerhalder. Classic straight girl crush. That's who I used to pretend to fancy when I was pretending to be straight, by the way. Ian Somerhalder and Harry Styles. But I would still be interested in Harry Styles. I wouldn't say no. But that's very lesbian of me, isn't it? Anyway, she says that she fancies Ian Somerhalder, and his response is, newsflash, sunshine, you and Ian aren't happening. Like, of course, they're not. It's a celebrity crush. Like, why do you have to, like, dismiss her? Why are you dismissing her so quickly? You're talking about celebrity crushes. Of course it's not going to happen. On this page, they refer to sex workers as prostitutes, which I was a bit shocked by because I thought that was, like, generally considered to be, like, not the language used anymore. And this book is quite recent, so that, I tabbed that. I was like, that's weird. That is weird. So yeah, that's Twisted Love. I don't recommend you read it unless you just want a good laugh. It entertained me. I'll give it that. I was entertained. And I was reading passages out to my wife, like every other page, and we were laughing about it together. So if you want like a nice bonding experience with your wife, this could be fun. But other than that, I just wouldn't really recommend it. So misogynistic. I cannot believe this was written by a woman. Like, genuinely. I understand dark romances. Like, I understand it being a genre that like some people are interested in, but like this is barely even dark romance. It's just abuse. Like, there's a way to write these kinds of books without it being abusive, and I think it's damaging, basically. But let's end this video on a more positive note, shall we? This is The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. I picked this up on a complete whim. I did not expect to enjoy this book, and I did enjoy this book. To all you people out there who comment like, you're determined to not like these books when you open them, like you're just so negative about all of them. Like, I present to you The Paradise Problem. This is a straight romance that I enjoyed and I did not think was problematic at all. I actually liked the man in this book. I liked him. And this isn't the first one that I've enjoyed. There were others. I can't remember what they were now off the top of my head, but I know in the other videos, if you watch them, there were other straight romance books I did not decimate with my words. I'm just standing up for my fellow women. I think straight women deserve better than shit romance books. You deserve more than that. In terms of a straight romance book, The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren, who I actually found out is two people, not one. Like, her name isn't Christina Lauren. It's written by two different women called Christina and Lauren, which is so cool. I want to write books with my friends. That's so fun. In terms of a straight romance, this book was really good. I really enjoyed it. I literally read it in like 48 hours because I thought it was that good. I couldn't put it down. It kind of feels like Crazy Rich Asians. If you like Crazy Rich Asians, which I really enjoyed that book, you'll probably really enjoy this. It's like a similar kind of premise. This was unproblematic. The characters communicated. It covered social issues. You know how I feel about social issue. It covered it, and it covered it well. Overall, the characters were just very well rounded. Like, the main characters, Anna and Liam, and also all of these side characters as well. I just really, really liked it. If I was to sum up this book in just a few words, like, this is an eat the rich billionaire romance in which the billionaires aren't romanticized. The billionaires are the villains. They're the villains, and it was so delicious. It touches on some really important real life issues, which are currently very relevant considering the oligarchy that is currently overtaking the USA and hopefully not, but maybe one day, the entire Western world. This is a very relevant current read. I'm just realising I've never actually heard the word oligarchy said out loud, and now I'm doubting if that's how it's pronounced. I've only seen it written down. Oligarchy. So our main characters here are Anna and West, or Anna and Liam. His name is Liam Weston. Anna calls him West. Everyone else or the family calls him Liam. Liam is the son of a narcissist billionaire man, and he is the grandson of the man who started the 6th most popular supermarket chain in the USA called Weston's. And the grandfather was very much a family man, really had a lot of like value in family values, and just really wanted his grandchildren to be very happy. And the grandfather's son, so Liam's dad, is a narcissist who only cares about money. The premise of this story is basically that all the grandchildren were left a big amount of money in their grandfather's will, $120 million to be exact, but they can only claim that money once they've been married for 5 whole years, which is in itself very problematic. Like, why does somebody have to be married to have value in this world? And that is touched upon in this book. Like, it's mentioned that it is very patriarchal and just like weird, but that is what the grandfather did. And he had values in family, like he thought it was very important, and he did it out of the goodness of his heart, but didn't really think about maybe the repercussions of that many years down the road. And so for Liam to get this money, he needs to be married. Only he married Anna in college, and it worked out well for both of them. Anna needed cheap housing, and if you were married on campus, you got cheap housing, and Liam needed the money. So they enter into this like contractual marriage with the idea that 5 years down the line they get divorced, Liam will get the money. And Anna was happy because she got cheap housing and she grew up, currently lives in intense poverty. They lived together in this housing for a couple of years, and now 3 years down the line, the 5-year mark is about to be upon them where they can finally officially be divorced. And Anna is living in abject poverty. Like, she works in a petrol station, a convenience store, something like that she has just been fired from. She is an aspiring artist. She lives paycheck to paycheck. She can't really afford anything at all. She literally has $20 in her bank account. And her dad is going through cancer treatment, so she's got all these medical bills to pay. There's a lot of discussion around like how she shouldn't have these medical bills to pay, but she does. Again, it's a very leftist book. It's very liberal. I was eating it up, as you can imagine. So she has no money, and she's just desperately trying to scrape together anything she can to pay for her dad, who she loves more than anything in this world. Like, her dad is this amazing, amazing man, and he raised her on his own, and they're very, very close. And Liam has the complete opposite problem, where he wants to inherit $120 million, but his family are starting to get a little bit suspicious about this fake marriage of his, because they have never met his wife, and it's his sister's wedding coming up in an island. I want to say it's in Indonesia. The family basically like, you need to bring your wife to this wedding. And Liam's like, shit, I haven't seen her in 3 years. Maybe I should go and turn up on her doorstep and see if she'll come to this wedding with me, and in return, I'll give her $100,000, which in the grand scheme of things, he was very much lowballing her. Like, he's about to inherit $120 million, like, he can give her more than $100,000. But, like, Anna doesn't know that. For Anna, $100,000 is a huge amount of money that would literally change her entire life. Like, she could pay off all of her dad's medical bills. She could focus on her art. Like, that is everything to her. And so she accepts. And guys, I absolutely love the characters of Anna and Liam in this. I just thought they were so well-rounded. Anna is such a relatable character. She's very funny. She's very witty. She lives in poverty, but like, she is happy. Like, she is so content with her relationship with her dad and her best friend, and like, sure, she's got her problems, and like, she talked about her problems and how hard it is living on the breadline like she does, but ultimately she has pretty much everything she would want in life apart from a bit more money. Whereas Liam has all this money. He has like anything he could ask for, but he doesn't have a relationship with his family. He has a really narcissistic, quite awful dad. He has bad relationships with his brothers. His mum is just like brutally honest because she's so unhappy. But despite coming from so much money, Liam is surprisingly well-rounded. He wants to get this $120 million, not because he wants it for himself, but because he wants to donate it to charity. He basically started this foundation for the people who work at his family's supermarkets, Western supermarkets, and he wants to give back to those people because he knows that his dad treats them like absolute shit. He has a lot of money and he was very sheltered from the world, and you can tell that with Liam, but he has a good heart, and Anna also has a very good heart, and they're very much like the yin to each other's yang. They worked. So they head to this island in Indonesia for this wedding, and Anna is originally really sort of won over by how beautiful the place is, how they have this like overwater bungalow. It is literal paradise, and Anna is loving every second of it, because anybody would do at first. And then as the wedding week commences, she starts to see the sheer amount of excess, like the amount of stuff that Liam's family are bringing over to this tiny island just for the sake of one wedding. Like, she sees the environmental impacts of that and how ridiculous it all is, and she comments on all of this, and Liam agrees, but he like can't quite see it through Anna's eyes because this is the world he grew up in. But also, like, they communicate. Guys, the romantic lead in this book, they communicate, they talk. There is not a singular ounce of miscommunication in this book. When they have a problem, when they're not seeing eye to eye on something, they sit down and they discuss it and they come to an agreement. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? You as a reader, you kind of like experience this book in the same way that Anna does. So basically you think it's going to be this super idyllic escapism kind of book. Like, I can imagine somebody reading this on the beach and being like, yeah, this is going to be like a really light, fluffy read. And you enjoy it at first, like Anna enjoys it at first. And then as you go through the book, you start to see all the pitfalls with this kind of overindulgence. You start to really see that whilst this family seemingly have everything on the outside, they have all this money, they have more money than you could possibly know what to do with, there are so many cracks. They are so deeply unhappy, and the root cause is money and the very narcissistic father. But he is only that way because of the money. Like, Anna is watching these people spend enough money in a single transaction that could change her entire life, and you're constantly reminded of that. You are reminded as the reader that you are closer to Anna in this book than you ever will be in a million years to the Westons, to that amount of money. I'm going to read from my notes again for this because I feel like I wrote this really well, not to toot my own horn. You think this is going to be escapism, but it's actually a really stark discussion on billionaires and the ethics around billionaires without ever being too heavy. It will be a really good read for people who aren't super into politics and social justice and political issues. They'll pick this up thinking, oh yeah, light, easy read, and then they're introduced to these new ideas that they probably have never really thought that deeply about. It's quite easy to forget that not everyone is an insufferable social justice warrior like I am. Like, I sort of just assume that everyone is introduced to these points, to these like social justice problems at points in their life. But actually, a lot of people aren't. If you're not chronically online, you're probably not aware of the discussion around the ethics around being a billionaire. So, like, I can imagine a random person picking this up in the airport thinking like, oh yeah, that'd be cute to read on the beach on my holiday. It'll get them thinking. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. Anna is a genuinely funny character. Liam is so warm and so willing to learn and see Anna's point of view. I love the dual perspective here. Each chapter sort of switches between Anna and Liam, so you get to really see inside both of their heads and like what they're both going through mentally, because they're dealing with so much shit on this island. The attraction in this book is so obvious from the very beginning, and they never really skirt around their attraction to each other. Like, they joke about it, which I really, really like. The sex scenes in this book, fine. I don't really have, it's not super smutty. I think there's probably like 2 or 3 like major sex scenes. I don't really have any notes on them. They were fine. Straight sex. It is what it is. I did think the actions of the dad, who is the villain of this, were a bit pantomime-y villain at points maybe. However, having seen recent events in the last couple of weeks, the oligarchy, if that's even how you pronounce it, Elon Musk being Elon Musk on the world stage, being a billionaire, and the dad in this is a billionaire, I don't think his actions are all that pantomime-y, to be honest. We are seeing it play out in real life. Had I read this book 6 months ago, I probably would have had a very, very different opinion. I probably would have been like, yeah, it reads like a James Bond villain. No, I don't think it does. It seems correct. And my final point about this is this book has made me want to book my honeymoon, because that is probably the most paradisey 5-starry holiday that I'm ever going to go on in my life, and I need to actually finally book it. So this book has inspired me to do that. If anybody has any recommendations for 5-star all-inclusive honeymoon resorts around like Cancun, Tulum in Mexico, let me know. And so we have reached the end of another episode in my Lesbian Read series. Did we all enjoy it? Did we like this one? I wouldn't say I particularly enjoy this series, but it does make me laugh. I edit these videos and I literally laugh at myself. And if you can't laugh at yourself, who can you laugh at? Every time I filmed one of these videos before, I'm like, I'm never doing this again. This is the last one. But you guys seem to really like them, and this is my job. So tell me what books you want to see me read for the next instalment of my Lesbian Read series. Tell me in the comments. I am wondering if I should do like a fantasy special episode. Should I read the fantasy books? Should I read A Court of Thorn and Roses? Should I read Iron Flame? Should I? I don't want to. I feel like it would do well, but I don't want to. Should I get the other books that we have read in this episode and we can rank them? We're going to go worst to best. The worst book in this video, probably no surprise, Twisted Love by Anna Huang. This is bad. Third, we have Flawless by Elsie Silver. When I read this, did I think I'd be reading a book that was worse than this? No, but I did. This did have its redeeming points. Some of it was fine. Fine's probably an over-exaggeration. Some of it was better than Twisted Love. Then we have Happy Place by Emily Henry. Again, I don't hate Emily Henry books as a whole. I don't think they're super problematic. I just don't really like her writing. It's just, she's not for me. And the winner, the one I enjoyed the most, of course, Paradise Problem, that I literally just spoke about. Is Christine Lauren generally a good writer? Are the rest of her books as good as this one? Let me know. I'm intrigued. Thank you so much for watching, and also a huge thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. If you want to check them out, if you want to support me and this channel and you want to support them, then the link is in the description box down below. Why not? Why not go check them out? I think you should do that. Think of all the things you can learn. There is a whole world of learning at your fingertips. Learn something new. Do it. Treat yourself. Also, if you're not subscribed, then what are you doing? We've just spent like an hour together and you're not subscribed. That's crazy. You should click the subscribe button, I think. And then we can spend even more time together and it will be so romantic. Thanks for watching, you guys, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.